Where's it at right now? I thought this is all in here. Oh, it's gonna go through
Everybody have a copy? We're ready.
through the
Yeah, Marina Heights.
Nautical
No, not
Heights.
Marina Heights.
That's Nautical Heights.
That's not.
Oh,
What's
that's
existing there right now, Lori?
Guess I should have brought my glasses on.
This is the Drive.
Right here. This is.
This is the new stuff, phase 1 and 2. This is phase 3 back here.
Oh, those aren't developed yet? Back
No,
here?
this is phase 3.
Oh, I thought they were all.
tonight.
Oh, okay. I thought they were all developed. I mean, I thought they were all kind of there.
It is 7:01 PM on May 7th, 2024, and I'm calling to order the City of Brookings Planning Commission. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will conduct this meeting in regular format and will allow commissioners, applicants, and interested parties the opportunity to speak.
Roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Commissioner Peters?
Here.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Whatwood?
Here.
Commissioner Wolkowitz?
Here.
Commissioner Commissioner Bruce?
Here.
Commissioner Bond?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And I do not have any announcements as a chairperson. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we will conduct this meeting in regular format and will allow commissioners, applicants, and interested parties an opportunity to speak. This meeting is being broadcast live on PEG Channel 181 and can be streamed on the city's YouTube channel. We are about to begin the public hearing portion of the agenda. The following information applies to all of the applications being heard today. The public hearing will be conducted in the following manner. First, the planning staff will present their report. The applicant will then make his or her presentation. Next, anyone wishing to speak in support of the proposal will be afforded an opportunity, followed by anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposal. Finally, any interested parties or representatives of public agencies will be asked to testify. All speakers must state their names and mailing addresses. Any person who wishes to speak may be asked questions by the commissioners. The applicant will be offered the opportunity to rebut evidence. Planning staff will then be given the opportunity to make any final comments at the end of the public testimony of this hearing. Testimony and evidence must be given under the following guidelines. All testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria outlined in the staff report, comprehensive plan, or land use regulation which applies to the decision. Except for the applicant, testimony shall be limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise stated by the chair. Any exhibits presented will be marked as part of the record and will be kept by the planning staff until appeal opportunities expire. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission and the parties an opportunity to respond precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or otherwise issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow this commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the evidentiary hearing, any participant may request additional time and the opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony regarding the proposal. This is limited to those who have spoken on the request. Repetitious testimony is not necessary and is discouraged. We have 2 agenda items for consideration tonight. CUP-7-24 is a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at 1245 Iris Street. And SUB-2-21 is a request for a final plat approval of Seacrest Estates Phase 3. By a show of hands, does any commissioner have any ex parte contact to declare for any of these applications? I see no hands raised. By a show of hands, does any commissioner have any personal bias or personal interest that would preclude their participation in any hearing of these applications? I see no hands raised. By a show of hands, does any commissioner have any potential or actual conflict of interest to declare for any of these applications? I see no hands raised. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission to hear these matters? Seeing no hands raised in objection, we will now proceed with the presentation of these applications. We will now proceed with the following applications. Agenda item 4.1-CUP-7-24. The time is now 7:06 PM and the public hearing to consider the following application is open. In the matter of file number CUP-7-24, a request for approval of a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental facility at 1245 Iris Street. The applicant and owner is Alexander Keim. The criteria used to decide this matter are found in section 17.124.170 short-term rentals, chapter 17.136 conditional uses, and section 17.20.040Q single-family residential R16. This is a quasi-judicial hearing and the Planning Commission will make a decision on the matter. We will now proceed with the staff report.
Good evening, Planning Commission. This is a request for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental in a single-family dwelling located at 1245 Iris Street, Assessors Map 411306CB, Tax Lot 4005, zoned R1. The subject property is surrounded by R1 single-family residential to the north, south, and the west, and R2 two-family residential to the east. The property is regular in shape, 0.18 acre in size, and located on the south side of Iris. It's accessed from Iris Street, which has a paved travel path, roadway, and there are no public improvements in the right-of-way. The property is developed with a single-family, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,691 square foot dwelling, a single-car garage, and a paved driveway large enough to accommodate 2 vehicles. The existing driveway is of sufficient size to accommodate 2 vehicles, and the single-car garage will be available for guest use, meeting the required off-street parking requirement. Utilities are provided, and the applicant has advised a local representative residing within the Brookings urban growth boundary will be responsible for the property and available to make repairs, resolve disputes, and/or terminate occupancy if necessary. We did receive letters of opposition from neighboring residents, which were provided in the agenda packet, expressing concern over street safety and parking, disturbance from large rental parties, other short-term rentals in close proximity, and property maintenance. Staff does find that the application does meet the criteria for a short-term rental CUP. If planning wishes to place any additional conditions of approval to address concerns, we can amend the final order to reflect those.
Thank you, Lori. Is the applicant or the representative here?
Yes, sir.
Please step to the podium, state your name and address, mailing address.
Alexander Keim, I go by Alex. My address 1169 Tree Hall Drive in Roseville, California, 95678. I don't really have a presentation of sorts. I mean, it seems like a pretty standard thing, you know. My wife and I bought the home because we love the area. We've been coming here for 25 years. We got engaged camping up here 21 years ago. You know, we just wanted a vacation home to bring the kids to and enjoy. But, you know, I'm sure some of you know, owning a second home is can be expensive, and you kind of need to offset the expenses by renting it out. And so, you know, nothing really more to say, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in support? No? Any opposed? It looks like we have quite a few public comments. Some of them say I assume it's the only one, but some of them say it's CUP 6-24. Some of them don't have an agenda item at all, but I assume it's 7.24. So,
Six. Is there? There's a 4.2.
Oh, it got changed here.
did it get changed?
Yeah, this letter.
Okay.
So let's do better vision.
So it should be item 7.24. So,
Yeah. They just wrote down the wrong one.
so I have Raymond Simon, you did not check if you're in support or in opposition.
I'm sorry, opposition.
Okay, would you like to go first?
Sure. Do I go up here?
State your name and your mailing address.
Hello, I'm Ray Simon, 1241 Collis Lane. I asked the planning council to decline this application for short-term rental. This is getting ridiculous from my perspective. 1266 Roland and 1237 Roland already operate as short-term rentals. 1266 it's a very large home, attracts large groups of people because of its size, number of rooms, and it has a guest house. This can be very annoying for neighbors, with renters walking into and across the yards to see the ocean. 1237, smaller home, attracts smaller groups, but adds to the lineup of parked cars on a tight street. It's a tight turn, kind of tough to get through. There's already been one accident for people on the corner. The property for the proposed application is right around the corner from these other short-term rentals. The city should not allow our residential neighborhood to become Hotel Row. While short-term rentals might contribute to tourism for Brookings, they detract from building a strong community. Strong communities are built around neighborhoods of residents, not neighborhoods of transients. The greater the number of full-time residents, the greater the odds are of attracting quality teachers, medical, and other professionals, all essential for building a strong community. Neighborhoods filled with short-term rentals erode home values for current residents, decrease the odds of getting new full-time residents, and essentially become Hotel Row. Cities across the United States have begun to restrict, limit, and ban short-term rentals. Brookings should take note and create some balance for full-time residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Clark?
Good evening. Steve Clark, 1244 Iris, directly north across from the house in question. I'm opposed to the nightly rental basically because when I first moved here, I've been here 5 years, June will be 5 years. And when I first came, there was the one house on Roland that you would hear, maybe a couple times a month. And then there became more on Roland and then on Hub. So we were kind of surrounded, and now this latest one is going to be right in the middle of all of us that are there at the end of Iris. I lived in Moab for 15 years before I moved here, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Moab, Utah, but it's a community that literally on the weekends can gain 10 to 25,000 people, and then they all leave on Monday. Literally, you end up paying for all this infrastructure, sewer, water, roads that are used by outside people, and the locals are stuck with the consequences of that. Also, I just kind of lost my train of thought there. That's my main outlook.
Yeah.
And just in the last week, I know LA County is talking about banning nightly rentals, and the whole state of Hawaii is talking about banning nightly rentals. So I kind of agree with both of those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rita Bunting?
My name is Rita Bunting, and I live at 1247 Iris, so I'm right next door to the house in question. And I am right behind the big house and the casita. So if this gets approved, I'm going to be surrounded by rentals. And the other one can get out of control at times. There's supposed to be a limit of 12 people, but I've counted up to 21 at any given moment. So my question is, we have all these rentals around us. Our community needs homes for the families that live here. Now, I may have a solution for Alex to deal with the hospitals. They're always looking for rentals for the doctors and traveling nurses, and they do 6-month stints at a time. So that may be an option. But my main concern is we have a lot of children in the neighborhood. And we have kind of a unique area in front of us. I don't know if any of you have been down there to look at the view and all of that. Everybody comes down to watch the sunset. The kids ride their bikes up and down the street. The parents are comfortable with them doing that because they know all of us at the end of the street. If it becomes a rental and we get what I call a transient neighborhood, you start getting people in there that you don't even know. You know, the parents, I think, will become a little concerned about letting their kids go up and down the street and enjoy. And there's not many places in this country that the kids can do that anymore. But Brookings is one of those small towns that we all love, and that's what we love about it. And if you go on Airbnb and Vrbo, there is no shortage of vacation rentals in our area. So that's why I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wes and Judy Bruning?
We're going to, it's been well stated, exactly what we think, what we believe, so we're not going to.
Thank you. Is it Deanna or Deanna Alves?
Yeah, I'm here for the Glenwood.
Oh, sorry. Got that, sorry. Is it Rosemary Merrill?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Rosemary Merrill. I live at 1249 Iris Street, known as the Elmo Williams home. And I'm right on the cliff, and the home that's rented all the time, most of the time, is right behind me, and they come through my property to go, because they're curious, and so they come through my property many a times when they're there. So that's one of my concerns. The other concern is because our street is a very nice street, and it's got about 5 yards of view. Many people come through there and park there constantly, and at night they do that, and we just don't need any more riffraff like that. I mean, constantly they're calling the police because somebody's so loud, or they're swearing or whatever, and we just don't need another rental there. So anyway, I'm right in the middle of all the rentals.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more public comment form that was filled out that was not signed with a name. Did somebody else fill one out and not sign their name?
I believe that was me. This happens to me a lot, but that's another.
Okay, would you like to speak? If so, approach the podium, state your name and your mailing address.
One quick thing. My name is Daniel Cabrera, and I live at 1222 Iris Street, a retiree. And that's probably about 50% of the folks who live on Iris Street. We're all retired, most of us. So we kind of got used to this really nice, peaceful, calm, quiet street. It's awesome. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I've lived in quite a few places. It's just sad to see that it's more important to rush in some vacation rental money. I don't know if that's, the city needs it that bad or what the issue is, but in a residential neighborhood, I really don't think it's appropriate. You got kids on our street. We have the end of the street where Rosemary lives. And that cyclone fence right there, it's right on a cliff. Now, I'd hate to see somebody who's in a vacation rental slugging down a few beers and thinking it's cool to jump on the other side of the cyclone fence, and away he goes, and you're calling the emergency people to come and airlift him out of there. okay? And like the one lady here who lives next door to him, on the other side of the street, there's parties going with limits of people beyond what it's supposed to have. And this is a big house. This is not a little house where maybe one family with 3 or 4 people with vacation rental. This thing could have probably accommodate 25 to 50 people. I mean, it's got some room in it. They just built a new upstairs on the thing, so it's nice. And I think Alex is a nice guy. He seems like a real nice guy. And I'm sure one day he might want to retire and move into that house. But he's got to know that he has neighbors that he's affecting. And I hate to say it in that term, because it sounds kind of awful, but it is what it is. It's the reality of the situation. You know, I like my peace and quiet. I don't want people racing up and down the street and throwing beer cans in people's yards and the garbage. And one gal who was already there, I don't know why she was there, when it came time for the garbage to be picked up, just brought it out late and they didn't pick up the garbage. And so she just threw it on the ground. And the neighbor across the street said, well, what are you doing? She goes, I don't give a damn. It's not my place. So, I mean, it's the kind of disrespect that I know won't happen all the time, but you know it's going to be there, okay? You know it's going to be there. And I'm just in opposition to this altogether, because there's already too many vacation rental places in too small of an area, of a residential area. You got 3 blocks there, you already have multiple places, okay? You have to limit this, okay? Or I'm gonna be on the phone to the cops every frickin' night, and so is everybody else on that street, okay? And then we're not gonna be very happy, all right? So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any interested parties? Any applicant rebuttal? Alex, did you want to respond to any of those concerns or comments?
Not really. I mean, it's also in my best interest to, screen renters. I want good renters in there, right? I don't want large groups of people having parties. Like, that's not in my best interest, right? I want my neighbors happy, and I want my house to stay in good condition, right? And so it's also in my best interest to do everything I can to make sure the renters that come in there are respectful and are also not large parties of people. So.
That's what Matt says too, though, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, I guess we've kind of monitored this about how many police calls come in on the vacation rentals, and that the CUP stands for conditional use permit, so it's conditional. And if these parties are going on, like you're saying in these other places, and I know that most of you probably don't want to take up officers' valuable time and stuff. However, that's the way that you control these, or if they don't comply with the rules and ordinances, then they get their conditional use permit revoked. So I think, have you, Tony, checked into recently how many calls have come in on?
Yeah, Lori requested some information from the police department. We have at 1266 Roland, a few calls came in, but they were from the owner. Not really sure what the calls were about. 1237 Roland has no calls on it. 1244 has had a neighbor complain about a barking dog. When the police arrived, it was quiet. And 1228 Hub Street has no calls. So, we, again, as you said, we can only enforce the CUP if we have evidence that there's issues. We don't know when there's 21 people staying at the place if we were tipped off to that, or if there was some documentation that proved that there were 21, then obviously they're violating their conditional use permit, and that that's grounds for at least an abatement initially, and then further review, potentially losing their conditional use permit. We need to know this. We need the calls. So, and obviously the city hall's closed after a certain hour. So calling the police department, dispatch, and documenting your concern in through dispatch is the best way to do this. That's how we find this information out. As we,
I guess, just peace of mind. Have you guys revoked anybody's CUPs?
We have.
Of all Brookings.
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. I was just curious, and just for these folks to know if it's actually been.
No.
We did, when we started getting most of these concerns, we had, I think it's been a year and a half or so ago, but there had only been 5 calls.
Right.
In 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing I wanted to just touch on. You know, we 2 years ago we went through a revamp, not really revamp, but sort of a refresh of our conditional use permit for short-term rentals, and we added additional requirements. We took short-term rentals away from R2, R3, so that people wouldn't turn apartment complexes, which I think are the true shortage of housing in our area. So we wouldn't see apartment houses turned into short-term rentals. So we changed that so that wasn't allowed. We tightened some things up a little bit. And, you know, the Planning Commission and the council had this discussion about how many short-term rentals they were going to allow in this community until they started to get concerned about it. And right now we're sitting below 5, we're sitting right around 2% of our available housing. And you know, cities like Bandon and other coastal communities, they're sitting more like at 5. So for us to get there, we have, currently we have how many now?
78.
78. So we need to be up and closer to 200 to be close to that. So that was, at that time, that was the discussion. Now it's a new council. We have one council who's interested in discussing this again and having a joint workshop with you all to have another discussion about is it time to consider a limit? And anyone who speaks at these meetings, obviously they only know about it until it's in their neighborhood, but I would urge them to pay attention to the, you know, our reports and our plans coming up. Those joint workshops are great opportunities for them to come and listen in and see where everyone stands, at least on the political side of this. So there is opportunities to at least voice their opinion. And, you know, every time we have somebody speak about this is not an uncommon thing. Every meeting we get the same discussion. So I think I would see in the near future that there's going to be more discussions on this subject. So.
Right, but it really needs to be brought up at the city council meeting.
Sure.
Rather than the planning commission.
Well, I mean, it really needs to be the decision. The planning commission and council want to come together again and have this discussion about what to do. And I think the only thing that's left out there is to say, are we going to put a cap on it? Are we going to say, once we get to this number, that's it? Or is there, you know, the option to say, hey, no, only so many in a certain neighborhood, you know, put limits in areas. There's all kinds of that were discussed at the last meeting, the last joint workshop.
Right. But I'm saying these concerns should be brought up at the city council meeting as well.
Well, I mean, to get the council interested in having this discussion and joining with you guys to make new regulations, and yes, that needs to be.
Okay. And that's it. I just wanted everybody in our attendance to hear that from you. So, okay. Any staff additional comments?
Just want to address Alex, I guess, I mean, just for your neighbor's sake, and I think most of us have stayed in some short-term rentals on our way, and I've stayed in a few, and they have noise ordinances, and I think probably what people want to hear is that you're going to kind of abide by that, and I've had some that I've stayed at actually have noise monitors outside and actually have smart equipment, you know, that go along with these short-term rentals, you know, and it's really kind of followed to keep people in line, you know, and respect your neighbors and everything else, you know. So I'm just kind of throwing food for thought out there, you know, to be neighborly, you know, for what you're dealing with and stuff. So, yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Excuse me. Can I say something?
The public testimony is closed.
Sounds like we're getting the old 1-2 brush off here. He's saying you got 78 rentals and you need to bump it up to 200. So where are all these rentals going to go? In the choicest neighborhoods where views are there. Now that means we've already got 3 or 4 of them in our neighborhood. So what is this? Is this more important to have vacation rental revenue over the peace of mind of your residents? And then we got to pick up the tab with our tax dollars for all the little extra things that we have to pick up for. When I have to call a cop to come and get a loud group of people to be quiet and not cuss and swear. Well, my tax dollars got to go for that cop when he could be doing something else. To me, it sounds like you guys have already made your mind up, obviously. Okay, and the residents be damned. And that really sucks. And I have to say that in the nicest effing way. That sucks. Okay? Moved here for a reason. Peace and quiet and tranquility. I have it, I've had it, and it's great. And now you tell me I gotta deal with parties? I got the hell out of California.
Well, I do think
I left
that,
California because of the
listen,
dirty air, dirty water,
I do think
and
that
the
we're
dirty
trying to,
looks.
okay.
And now you want me to come back here and start dealing with that again. All over again. Okay? Now, I'm sorry Alex has got his bank account is overdrawn on a house he obviously probably couldn't afford to buy. Because now he's got to rent it out and make ends meet. That's not my problem.
Okay, so we're in the staff additional comments portion of this, so
Right.
we're going to just move on. Does any staff have any additional comments?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Can I say something?
Approach the podium.
I just forgot to mention this. When I moved where I live, and I really care for it a lot, it took us 3 years to be able to get that fence that goes across that has the view, because people made a hole in it and they would go through with little children and stuff. It's not enough for them to stand behind and look at the view, no. They made a hole and went, or they go through Steve's property or mine to get to it. And it took the city here to give us another fence. They said, well, we're not going to give you the tubing, but we'll give you the wire to put there. And I mean, our street was supposed to come back and get fixed. They haven't done that. And I mean, I've been here 7 years. And so it's just a lot of disrespect for these people that are from out of town. They don't live here, so they don't care.
So the hole was caused by short-term renters?
It was caused by transients that were coming, you know, I can't say that they were all by the short-term rentals.
Okay.
But see, a lot of people come, not just the short-term rentals, but a lot of people come just to look at the view, because it's a gorgeous view.
I've seen it.
But it's not enough for them to do that. There was one guy with a can of beer and 6 kids walking on the edge because he went through the fence. And so it took 3 years for them to put a new fence, because, I mean, it looked like a rat's hole there, and it just brings the whole neighborhood down from outsiders.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Yes, please approach the podium.
Yeah, I'd just like to respond to a couple of the things you guys have said. One is we can call the police. And I'm going to tell you, I live on 1241 Collis, wonderful large house on a cliff surrounded by the water. I moved here from the Midwest. I became a full-time resident this January. I didn't come to live in an area that just has this many. So we talked about the number in Brookings. I think that's a big difference versus Hotel Row. And I made that up today because I go, this will become Hotel Row. And I think when I wrote my letter to my wife and I have seriously considered that this may not be the place that we want to bring our money to, our kids that come and visit and want to stay here. This is a little different than we're starting to see. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful things about Brookings. But the downside is to be able to do that. And I think one of my answers is to go move. And if I move, you're going to get my application, because I think I can get the biggest price on the block. And I might just give it out for $100 a night, and then we'll see what happens for 20 people, because we have 2 levels, so we can actually do 2 rentals. I think this is a pretty dumb way for me to be thinking, but I'm starting to think that way, and you guys get to control, and the planning council, and if there are meetings, then I would gladly talk to some people here and go approach them at a committee meeting or some other way. But there has to be a way to put some common sense on this. So like, let's say I convince all of them to do an application, and maybe I just pay their $3,400 a piece, that's fine. And then we'll all start doing this. I don't think that's what people want. I don't think that's what you want, or maybe you do, or maybe you just don't care. Thank you for letting me come back up.
Can I respond to that for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. Just, let's say you go ahead and pay your $3,400 for everybody to do it. Do you know what we can do about it? Nothing. You know why? Because it's his right to be able to do that.
Right.
Unless we change the laws.
Yep.
And right now, the laws have no limit. Right now, we can't do anything under RULPA. If this is what he wants to do with his house, our hands are tied because the law says that he can't. He has the right as he owns the property.
Yes.
It's his decision to do that. He's followed the application, and like Tony said earlier, we don't have any records of phone calls for the rental property on Roland, I think it was that you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We don't have a record of phone calls. We don't have anything to go by to remove the conditional use permit, to stop them from doing it.
So why are we here?
Yeah, so that is a good question. So there's no point in really having a hearing, right, to hear, so you got to hear us grumble. And so we have grumbled.
There is a point in us having because we have to make sure that he meets the criteria.
They all say they will and they don't.
No, the criteria that's in the ordinances. So the criteria is not the same as the conditions. The conditions are you can't have more than 4 cars or whatever the parking, 4 cars, 14 people. Those are the conditions. The criteria is, does it meet the zoning requirement? Does he meet the parking space requirement? Does he meet those things? That's the criteria.
Well, I've got something to say too.
I agree with what you're saying, but we shouldn't have these, because I was at the other property on Roland, that's a smaller property.
Right.
With a family that has a little girl, she's
We currently allow for them. Our ordinances currently allow for them. So when you say that we shouldn't have them, then you need to come to the city council and change the ordinances, right? The ordinances say we allow them when they meet the criteria. We've changed, as Tony said, we took them out of the multifamily zonings, out of the R2, out of the R3. We are starting to restrict them. We're not, what did Tony quoted that it was, they capped it at 5% in Bandon. We're currently at less than 2%, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
So we're not even at that threshold for what would be considered.
Yes.
I'm gonna point out one other thing. I do see what you're saying because, who was it? Denise McDonald, I think, was the one that sent in the picture of all the rentals that are rented.
Oh, the 3 are one's right over the fence from the other one.
Okay, you wanna know hear what's really amusing? There's 2 more that she didn't mark.
Oh.
That I know of.
Okay.
Okay. The council, well, most of the council was here when those were voted in. Okay. So that's my whole point, is that in those 78, you don't even know how many are around your house right now. And that's the way it should be, right? So obviously, these are getting rented, you don't even know about it. So if we have one that has a problem, and you want the planning commission to do something about it, we need those calls. Because otherwise, legally, by law, we're stuck. Our hands are tied. We're here to make sure that he's abiding by the rules, the laws that are set forward. That's what we're here for.
Right, so what you're pretty much saying is we can all do this, and then if we create too much trouble, then it'll just be neighbors calling police, and it'll be then taking away or further restricting the conditional use.
Correct, and we need those calls to come in, so we have substantial evidence that what you're saying about these parties and these neighborhoods being ruined, that frankly, we haven't seen happening.
I never called because I didn't even know what to do at the time. When I moved here, it was just a vacation home. I didn't.
Right, but you stated you didn't even know whether it was vacation rental people or just transients.
Chair Watwood, as a point of order, if we're going to have anybody speak in the audience, they need to be at the podium so that they're in the record.
The last thing I just want to say is, like, if someone's coming across my lawn and they're going up to my fence and they're peering over at the wonderful ocean, I can call the police. I can tell them to leave, right? That's going to be the first thing I do.
Right.
I can call the police, and by the time the police will get there, it's doubtful that they were actually still in my yard. So I can make those phone calls, and if you want me to, I'll make every one of them.
The police don't necessarily have to show up. We need to be informed that there's been something.
Okay, fair enough.
And you can
Correct,
say,
Tony?
Yeah, it's not evidence, it's a phone call.
And you can say, it's the person that's staying at such and such vacation rental. And
Take a picture.
Take a picture. The police will come out there, talk to them, and file that complaint. We just do not have those. We don't have those on record. And we understand what you're saying. We're not trying to dismiss anybody and say that you don't have valid points. We're just saying that this is something that we follow what the ordinances say, and if they meet the criteria, then we approve an application. When you come and say this is happening, we need the evidence to support that.
Right.
We don't have it.
So I appreciate you having this conversation back with us, and we do need to go approach some other people in the city to make the point, because I think it shouldn't just be looking to represent Alex or like in kind wanting to do it. There should be some concern about us. Like, we live in here in the town, like we're residents full time.
Right.
So there's got to be some concern on that.
Right. And we are not concerned. We are not concerned about you. I mean,
We live here too.
we live here
Yes.
too. We all live here too.
Yeah.
Just an example of this, because it's not a secret. If you don't know where I live, I'm the house directly behind Dollar General.
Okay.
So I have transients all day long,
Yeah.
every day, in the brush down in front of my house. Matter of fact, I cleaned out all the brush in front of the house. I've done all kinds of stuff.
I live right across from Azalea Park,
There you
and the people that I call the police department on, they have no money, no nothing. They can't do anything with them. It's just the world is evolving, and it might not always be to favor, but I would choose to live where you guys live 10 times over where my house is. I totally agree with all of you guys, but I think it's better that we work together more so as a community. Like we said, our hands are kind of tied at this moment, but you guys, do your part, and we'll do our best to do ours. We're not looking to cause any problems. We want to resolve them. So I think if we all just take a deep breath and work towards an outcome that works for everyone, I think that's the best route to take. It sounds happy-go-lucky, hey, let's all go out to eat, but I really think it's important to not get so worked up. Let's just work towards a solution, which is, just doing the work. You're going to have a lot of people there through the summer, and record things, make notes, write it down on a piece of paper, take pictures, do whatever you have to do, and then at that point, we'll have more than a call about a dog barking, so.
And I just would like to say, that's why I asked Tony, and I'm allowing Ray Simon more than 5 minutes because I feel it's necessary. We're allowing us all more than 5 minutes, not just you. But that's why I said, or I asked Tony, they need to address the city council as well, because I wanted you all to hear that we make decisions based on certain criteria.
I'd just like to add to that, if the best approach to start off with is just every one of our counselors' email addresses are available. Write them an email, I know it's on their mind right now because it's come up at a couple workshops as a subject. So now's the time. Reach out to them, talk to them, send them an email. It's probably the best way to contact them. And it'll continue to come up as a discussion point, and it's at some point will evolve into a joint workshop between the council and planning commission.
Right. And I have a couple of vacation rentals or short-term rentals in my neighborhood, and I just don't see, I see families coming here or people coming, we're not a Fort Lauderdale, we don't have college kids coming here to party. But if that's happening, we need you, the public, to call in, at least make a complaint or at least acknowledge to police dispatch or the police department so we can have those on record, because then we can say these things are happening. Currently, we don't have that record, so.
What's it take to change the ordinance outright? Because I'm at a point where I feel maybe we need to start a petition, a ballot measure, and have restrictions on property rentals, period, 0.
Right.
You want to go from 78 to 200? I'm not going to take it from 78 to 0.
Right.
Okay?
Well, I'll tell you right now, this.
You have hotels, RV campgrounds, you have a myriad of other cities really close by that can visit Brookings. You don't have to infiltrate the neighborhoods.
Please approach the podium if you're going to speak more.
To be a part of the record, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good. So I just got reprimanded earlier, so.
It's
Thought we were one big happy group.
We are, but I'm just.
It's important. It's just important to get everybody into the record, and the only way to do that is to step at the podium, give your address, your name again, so that the stages of everybody's discussion is being documented. And when people are in the crowd talking, we don't get their name, their location. So it's just a point of order for a planning commission meeting. To change the ordinance, I'll answer that question just quickly. It starts with writing your counselors. It starts with a workshop, and then it evolves into an ordinance. An ordinance is it starts with in this particular case, it's a land development code change. So it would come back to the planning commission and then be adopted by the council. So again, start the conversation with an email, and then when we have a joint workshop, it'll get discussed, and then staff will get directed to draft an ordinance that would include, say, a limit or an outright ban. I mean, there's a whole host of things that could happen there, but it has to start with community outreach to our counselors and even our planning commissioners, everybody.
And I believe that the council had been proactive without the community on the multifamily zoning, trying to restrict that, trying to tighten up those ordinances. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the city council did that on their own without petitions from citizens. So reach out to the planning or the city councilman. So, okay. Does any participant request additional time to present evidence? In any land use decision, the burden of producing substantial evidence to demonstrate compliance with the applicable criteria is on the applicant. If adequate evidence is not provided, the application must be denied. An applicant may be granted up to 7 additional days to submit written argument. Does the applicant request additional time to submit argument? If not, are you willing to waive written argument and have a decision made this evening?
No additional time, President.
Thank you. It is now 7:48 p.m. and public testimony is closed on Planning Commission file number CUP-7-24. We will now proceed to Planning Commission discussion and make a decision on the matter. From this point forward, no member of the audience will be allowed to address the commission. Any discussion?
I think we had our discussion pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
In detail.
Discussed.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the planning commission approve file number CUP-7-24, a request for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental at 1245 Irish Street based on the findings and conclusions stated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval.
Second.
Chair Watwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolkowitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bond,
Aye.
Commissioner Peters.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do I hear a motion and second for final order?
I move that the planning commission approve the final order regarding file CUP-7-24 based on the findings and conclusions stated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval.
Second.
Commissioner Wolkowitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman,
Aye.
Commissioner Peters,
Aye.
Chair Watwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Bond.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Alex, your application is approved. Agenda item 4.2-SUB-2-21. The time is now 7:50 PM and the public hearing to consider the following application is open. In the matter of SUB-2-21, a request for final plat approval to subdivide a 4.99 acre parcel into a 22 lot subdivision to be known as Seacrest Estates Phase 3. The owner and applicant is Howard and Howard Investment Group LLC. This is a quasi judicial hearing and the planning commission will make a decision on the matter. We will now proceed with the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Watwood, members of the commission. This is a request for a final plat for Seacrest Estates Phase 3. On May 4, 2021, Planning Commission granted preliminary approval for Seacrest Estates 3, 22-lot subdivision in the East Harris Heights area. On March 5, 2024, the Planning Commission approved a 2-year extension to submit the final plat. The applicant has approved infrastructure plans and completed work on the needed on-site improvements. The City of Brookings has approved all on-site improvements. Initially, lots 24 and 25 were to be accessed off East Harris Heights Road. Access to those parcels have now changed. Access will be through a private easement to be known as Lighthouse Spur that will be granted off of Lighthouse Way through a private road easement. The original conditions of approval will be adjusted to show lots 23, 24, and 25 have been granted a private easement off Lighthouse Way and a private road. Additionally, the original conditions of approval will be adjusted to reflect access easement through lots 24 and 25 over an existing gravel road. Beneficiaries, the City of Brookings, Wellenbrock Bond, and Galman. Other remaining conditions of approval have been met, and final plat is in conformance with approved preliminary plat. Final plat approval will require the plat adjustments and dedicated easements before they are finally before we do final signature. So within the staff report, you see there are drafts of those easements, maintenance agreement on the private road, so it's not put on the city to maintain it. There are 2 easements under the discussion. We printed off a map. You have it. The one that you see at the very south end, that is basically Howard granting an easement that essentially the gravel road is currently on the Howard development property, lot 24 and 25. And so what they did is created an easement to cover that gravel road. It only encompasses the area of the gravel road that cuts through lot 24 and 25. And you'll see in the detail B, the private road easement that's going to be placed off of Lighthouse Lane, which will be called Lighthouse Spur, that gives access to lot 23 and 25, or 24 and 25. Lot 23 is a stormwater retention pond. Lot 22 takes access off of Lighthouse Lane, as well as lot 26 takes access off of Lighthouse Lane. So it's really just those 2, lot 24 and 25, that are going to be accessed off this spur. With that, if you have any questions.
So lot 23 is just dead?
Yeah, it's still technically a lot, but it's a stormwater detention pond.
And is that going to provide adequate fire access to get out?
Yeah,
Dealing with earlier.
Right, I verified this with Fire Chief Watson, the access.
Cool.
So. And just a reminder, normally when we have a preliminary plat approval, for example, Seacrest Phase 1 and 2, there weren't any substantial changes to the preliminary plat that was approved by the Planning Commission. So our code allows the final plat to be signed by the Planning Commission chair and the planning director without bringing it back to the Planning Commission. In this case, there was enough of a change that we needed to bring the plat back for approval for a final plat. So that's why we're bringing it back to you tonight.
Is that it?
That's it.
The applicant? Is the applicant here? Do you have anything to say?
Barbara Howard, 266 Retirement Lane, Cape Junction, Oregon. So we were ready for final plat almost a year ago, and unfortunately, Perry Land Surveying and my engineer did not realize that East Harris Heights was a privately owned street. So it kind of has stalled our final plat and, incurred $250,000 on the project. So we've tried to come up with a solution within our own property, not to put any more burden on the neighbors for East Harris Heights. And I'm hoping that we can complete the final plat. I really need to. We've had people that have extended almost a year on lot sales that are sitting there waiting and would like to build their house. And in good faith, I have brought millions to this community. I love this town. I think it's a great place to be. And hopefully we can get through to final plat, finally. That's what I'm hoping for tonight.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Anybody else in support? Any opposed? Deanna?
No, because they changed where the road was going to go.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Any interested parties? Any applicant rebuttal to nothing? Thank you. Any staff additional comments?
No.
Does any participant request additional time to present evidence? In any land use decision, the burden of producing substantial evidence to demonstrate compliance with the applicable criteria is upon the applicant. If adequate evidence is not provided, the application must be denied. An applicant may be granted up to 7 additional days to submit written argument. Does the applicant request additional time to submit written argument?
No, thank you.
If not, are you willing to waive written argument and have a decision made this evening?
Yes, sir.
The applicant is, it is now 7:58 PM and public testimony is closed on Planning Commission file number SUB-2-21. We will now proceed to Planning Commission discussion and make a decision on the matter. From this point forward, no member of the audience will be allowed to address the commission. Any more discussion?
I move the Planning Commission approve file number SUB-2-21, a request for final plat approval of Seacrest Estates Phase 3, based on the findings and conclusions stated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval.
Second.
Commissioner Peters?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Commissioner Wolkowitz?
Aye.
Chair Whatwood?
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move the Planning Commission approve the final order regarding file sub SUB-2-21 based on the findings and conclusions stated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval.
Second.
Commissioner Bond?
Aye.
Chair Whatwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Peters,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolkowitz,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. You're approved. Or your plat is approved.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 5, the minutes for approval from the April 2nd, 2024. Does everybody have a copy of those? Get a chance to review them?
It's all good.
It's the very last page. Just looking for minutes.
Yeah, they're in there. That was my fault.
Ooh, I made it. That's fine. I'm in.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. I move the planning commission approve the planning commission minutes for April 2nd, 2024.
Second.
Commissioner Bruce,
Aye.
Commissioner Peters,
Aye.
Chair Whatwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapman,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolkowitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bond,
Aye.
motion carries.
Do we have any unscheduled public appearances? Apparently not.
Not looking like.
Any report from planning staff, Tony? I'm sorry.
Just say,
Lori, come on.
Lori, I'm sorry.
we have no meeting next month,
Hey!
after this month, yeah. We will have a meeting in July. We already have one application for July's meeting.
And what is it?
What do you think?
It's a minor change to a CUP.
Oh, wow.
A change.
Yeah.
New
someone bought-
property owner.
Yes.
So hey, it's not increasing.
Yeah.
It's the same.
What's surprising is we've had 3 CUPs come off the list because the owners do not want to, they've accomplished what they wanted. They're now living in their houses. They're no longer renting them out as short-term rentals.
Oh.
So they've come off within the last 2 months. So we've gone down.
But they could turn
That would have been
around.
valuable. That would have been valuable.
Yeah, if they move out.
Yeah,
they
we
can
could have
turn
really,
back.
we could have really used that.
They never, does a conditional use expire if they don't renew?
Yeah,
Yes.
if the owner changes and they don't do it within a year.
No, that's for a new owner, but for an old owner, if they
Yes.
don't come back and renew.
So if they do not renew every year and keep submitting their TOT taxes, then their CUP goes into, what'd be the word?
Limbo.
Default.
Yeah, well, kind of, but it gets not renewed and.
You don't pay.
It's just how it works.
And that's a rule that we just recently changed, because
Yeah.
every year they have to do not a reapplication, but
Short-term rental registration.
registration every year. Before that was one of the rules that we changed.
Yes, I know. But, and my question is, do we have anything in there that says that if you don't, say, renew for 2 years in a row, that we can pull your
Yes.
conditional use?
It's one of the conditions of approval, that you have to renew yearly, and you also have a yearly inspection on your property.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
So
have we ever had somebody not renew?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, we had 3
No,
people.
but my question then would be, shouldn't we pull the conditional use so we can drop the number? that
No.
She quoted the number, didn't you?
Yeah, but we can't pull the conditional use permit because in the ordinance, it says the conditional use permit runs with the property as long as the owner owns it. If they change ownership, then, and the new owner does not.
It says it doesn't run with the property.
No, a conditional use permit does run with the property, but on short-term rentals, it runs with the property until they sell it. And then upon selling, the new owner has 6 months
I
to
think we should
transfer it.
change that.
Not run with the land.
No, just that, if I'm not mistaken, I think it says that it's not, it doesn't say that it runs with the land. It says that it is not, doesn't it say it doesn't run with the, oh, it says it doesn't run with the land, you're right, okay.
What is the,
So if it doesn't run with the land, then it only runs with the property owner, and since it's the property owner who has to renew, if we add into there that if they don't renew for like 2 years.
Right, it's number one of the conditions of approval.
Pardon?
It's number one of the conditions of approval.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I'm suggesting is maybe in order to get the number down, because we seem to have people dropping. I mean, if you have 3 people who now live in their house and we were 78, does that include them, or could we go down to 75 now?
It would include them because when they got their conditional use permit, it said that the conditional use permit runs with the property until they sell it. And if they're still owning it, and if they, as long as they pay that yearly registration fee,
Right.
they can keep it.
So you don't have that.
You know what I'm saying, if you don't pay the registration fee,
They
can
lose
we
it.
drop them?
Yeah,
We didn't have that before.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so.
Now we have it. Every year they have to pay the registration fee.
Okay,
That's-
so next year, we're gonna come to us with 3 people who we can drop.
I don't know.
Does, I know
If
you
they
said-
keep their, if they pay their registration fee,
No, if they don't pay the registration fee next year, we'll have 3 people you can come to us with.
I don't think it comes to the planning commission.
yeah, no, they just drop off.
Send them a letter that says
Yeah.
CUP is expired.
Yeah.
Because they did not renew.
Right.
I know you're talking about banning having 5%. Are they having this much people coming to these meetings, and is this a thing now?
Oh, there's a huge, I mean, Garibaldi's a great example, a community that had a huge percentage, and there was just so much fighting between neighbors and property owners. And, I mean, there's Senate bills that came out five years ago.
Yeah.
That basically said, listen, property owners have rights. Do what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Local governments can add restrictions, but you cannot just outright ban them.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You can't. So.
What did Gold Beach do? Didn't Gold Beach stop it? The short-term rentals? You can't do it there anymore?
But they might have put a limit on it.
Yeah, well, it's getting out of hand.
You
I
can put a
knew
cap,
that.
but you just can't outright ban it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is becoming, because I mean, since I've started, we've had more and more and more people coming and opposing.
It's been like that every
It's
time.
been that way for years.
It's been like that every time.
I guess it just depends on what neighborhood you're in or whatever, you know, so, yeah, I don't know.
Any commission final comments? I guess we're ready.
Yep. We're good. Close it up, Skip.
It is now 8:07 PM and the meeting is adjourned.